Hello everyone, I'm Guanxing in Beijing, bringing you the final episode of BizTalk for the year. As we stand on the threshold of 2024, it's a perfect moment to reflect on China's economic performance throughout 2023 and its impact on the global stage. And for a comprehensive overview, my colleague Aaron is here to give us the big picture.
Thank you, Guanxing. When it comes to evaluating a nation's economic vitality, GDP takes center stage. In the first 3 quarters of this year, China demonstrated an impressive 5.2% year-on-year GDP growth. This 5% growth rate is significant for an economy of China's size. To put it in perspective, this 5% annual growth is equivalent to the Netherlands' total GDP or half of Italy's GDP in 2022. Back to you, Guanxi.
Well, thank you, Aaron. The impact of China's economic performance in 2023 is not confined to China alone. It resonates globally. And earlier this month, the Asian Development Bank says developing Asia will likely end the year on a brighter note, with growth in the region expected to be stronger than previously thought, due mainly to a recovery in China's economy. And joining us today is Safdar Parvez, the ADB's country director for China. It's such a great honor to have you with us, Mr. Parvez.
Thank you.
So how does the Asian Development Bank gather economic data about China, and what indicators are you closely monitoring?
Yes, we have an excellent team of international and national economists working in our offices here in Beijing. They coordinate very closely with the various sources of data. They collect and monitor national data. They look at internationally comparative data. And they talk to a lot of other multilateral institutions and the private sector who also routinely cover the Chinese economy. Typically, the kind of data that we monitor reflects both the demand side of the economy as well as the supply side of the economy. We look at quarterly GDP numbers, for example. We look at consumption data, investment data, we look at inflation, we look at monetary policy aggregates, we look at fiscal policy such as taxes and subsidies and those types of issues, and we look at international trade data, we look at exchange rate movements. And not only that, but we also coordinate very closely with our headquarters in Manila and the office of the chief economist, because we would like to ensure that the data that we are putting out for China is consistent with the data of the other developing member countries of ADB, because there are so many linkages between the Chinese economy and the economies of other countries in Asia and Pacific. So together we come up with these types of estimates. We feel that our analysis is quite robust, based on scientific methodologies and triangulated through various sources.
And I know aside from data, you also went to a lot of Chinese provinces to see with your own eyes. What impressed you the most about China's economy this year?
I was very fortunate to have visited about 6 provinces and various cities within those provinces. What has always impressed me about the Chinese economy and Chinese people is the resilience that you see out in the field, the way cities are coming out of the impacts of the pandemic. They are restoring lives and livelihoods. They are jump-starting their economies. We saw very promising examples of agricultural production. We visited several agribusiness industries. I was recently in the Guangxi-Zhuang Autonomous Region and had the opportunity to visit the border with Vietnam. And we saw a lot of trade happening between the two countries, which is really good for food security and for promoting the livelihoods of farmers around in these areas. So I think because of the opening up after the pandemic, there are promising signs of economic recovery across the provinces that I visited.
And how do you think about the impact of China's economic policies and reforms on domestic economy this year? And what will be the priorities for the policies next year?
I think we have recently upgraded our economic projection for growth for China to 5.2% this year. And this is largely premised on the effectiveness of the policy response that we have seen coming from the Chinese authorities. For example, on the fiscal policy side, the government recently announced a stimulus package of 1 trillion RMB to support disaster management activities as well as broader development projects. We know that the local governments were asked to fully utilize their local government bond quotas so as to catalyze spending and expenditure at the local government level. On the monetary policy side, we saw that there were cuts in the policy rate, which led to an increase in the aggregate level of social financing available in the economy, which led to greater availability of credit. On the financial policies side, a cut in the mortgage rates in order to support the weaknesses that we saw in some of the property sector areas. Also policies such as preferential loan rates for first-time home owners, and also making it easier for households to acquire second homes. I think these are all manifestations of a policy that has been trying to support the property sector, also the government support for debt restructuring, as well as enabling property companies to be able to complete their property and housing projects as soon as possible. So I think all in all, we saw quite a robust response from the government. More is needed going into the future. But the strength of the recovery that we saw in 2023 was a result of some of these policies.
Right, and I know ADB is working closely with China on sustainable development. What role do you see China playing in the regions, in the Asia-Pacific region, sustainable and inclusive development?
China plays a vital role, a pivotal role for the regional as well as the global economic prospects. China contributes about 1/3 of global growth. It contributes nearly half of regional growth. It is one of the largest trading partners for many countries, perhaps over 140 countries. It remains a central part of the global and regional supply chains. China is also at the forefront of dealing with the global challenge of climate change. It is the world's largest renewable energy producer. It is a global manufacturing hub as well. And finally, from an Asian Development Bank's perspective, China contributes substantially to the development prospects of other countries. For example, China is an active contributor to our Asian Development Fund, which is a fund to support low-income, poorer and vulnerable countries. I think there are many ways in which China continues to influence and impact the global and the regional economies, and it continues to play a vital role.
And looking ahead to 2024, amidst a fastly evolving global landscape, what opportunities and challenges do you see for China's economy?
So we are at this moment projecting a steady growth of about 4.5% for 2024. We will be revisiting this when we update our projections around March or April next year. I think some of the challenges continue to be to find ways of improving consumer confidence in the economy so that they can spend more, in other words, boosting effective demand. Also trying to bring in private sector investment in a bigger way, in a larger way, is also going to be important for the economic prospects for 2024. Continuing to address some of the structural weaknesses in the property sector will be important. And also the external environment remains uncertain and difficult, and the geopolitics of it is also challenging. And so China will need to find a way to navigate these external environment because the strength and the health of its exports depends on an enabling external environment. As far as opportunities are concerned, there are many. The high-tech manufacturing sector. I would also like to add the importance of a strong services sector, because services sector is really critical to boost consumption levels in the economy, and within the services sector, the importance of a strong and resilient financial sector is a great opportunity that can be further explored in this context.
And that was Safdar Parvez, the Asian Development Bank's country director for the People's Republic of China.
.360-degree profiles of industry movers and shakers, tech mavericks, and policymakers. We drill down on their success. We ask how they set strategy and how they navigate in an increasingly competitive market. Real talk, real business. Join the conversation. BizTalk, only on CGTN.
And now let's delve into the industries and sectors which China excelled in this year. And back to you, Aaron, for an in-depth analysis.
Manufacturing services as a critical parameter for a country's economic sustainability and strength. In the first three quarters, industrial output, that is the total value added of industrial enterprises above the designated size, saw 4% year-on-year growth. Noteworthy performances were observed in green development, in areas such as solar cells, charging stations, and new energy vehicles. These areas recorded impressive growth rates of roughly 63%, 34%, and 26% respectively. Moving on to investment. From January to November, national fixed asset investment reached more than 46 trillion yuan. That is a year-on-year increase of 2.9%. Notably, investment in high-tech industries increased by 10.5%, indicating the emergence of new productive forces. The World Economic Forum recently unveiled its latest list of the lighthouse factories, recognizing 21 new manufacturing facilities globally. Remarkably, 12 of these facilities are situated in China. High-tech industries like photovoltaics, automobiles, and new energy were represented. These lighthouse factories are hailed as the world's most advanced factories. They present top-tier intelligent manufacturing capabilities. Back to you, Guoxi.
Well, thank you, Aaron. Indeed, the lighthouse factories stand as a testament to China's progress in smart manufacturing and its successful shift toward high-quality growth. And now let's welcome our second guest today, Professor He Ping, Deputy Dean of the School of Economics and Management at Tsinghua University. Welcome to the show, Professor He.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
So, Professor He, what is your assessment of Chinese economy in 2023, and what trajectory do you see for 2024?
Looking back at 2023, the key word for China's economy is recovery. In the first quarter, the economy rebounded and achieved a good start. In the second quarter, the overall recovery trend continued, and the growth rate of some indicators slowed down. In the third quarter, major economic indicators stabilized and rebounded. In the fourth quarter, the macro control policy started to take effect, and the economy maintained the momentum of stabilizing and rising. For 2024, the momentum of recovery will continue. In terms of consumption, consumer demand will be stimulated through measures such as raising household incomes and improving the social security system. In terms of industrial investment, firms are encouraged to increase R&D investment and promote industrial upgrading and transformation. It is also expected that there will be moderately increase in investment for infrastructure construction and real estate to stimulate economic growth.
So what specific policy factors have underpinned China's economic resilience, especially the rebound in the second half in 2023?
In 2023, the macro policy, along with the implementation of development strategy, have created a sound and stable economic environment, issuing additional 1 trillion RMB of treasury bonds, reducing reserve requirements and interest rates, cutting taxes and fees, promoting financial support in key areas, and resolving risks in the economic and financial fields. As a result, during the first three quarters, the contribution of domestic demand to economic growth increased to 113%, of which the contribution of consumption achieved 83%, effectively hedging the contraction pressure of external demand. In more detail, the total retail sales of consumer goods increased by 6.9%, significantly higher than the same period last year. For the investment momentum in high-tech industries is very, very strong, promoting the new momentum of economic growth. According to the National Bureau of Statistics, during the first three quarters, investment in high-tech manufacturing and high-tech services increased by 11.3% and 11.8% respectively, which are both substantially higher than the average growth rate of fixed asset investment, and continued to promote industrial transformation and upgrading. The added value of aviation, spacecraft, and equipment manufacturing in the high-tech manufacturing industry above designated size increased by 18.9%, also substantially higher than that of all industrial enterprises.
Indeed, we're seeing some new momentum of high quality growth. And Professor He, how would you characterize the external challenges of China's economy in 2023, and how might these challenges evolve in 2024?
In 2023, the external environment was very complex. The international political and economic conflicts, including Russia-Ukraine conflict, Israeli-Palestinian conflict, US-China trade conflicts, have imposed great uncertainty on the global economy as well as on China's economy. And at the same time, US continued to raise interest rates, and this increased the risk of financial turbulence global-wise. The international environment is expected to improve in 2024. US expected to cut interest rates, and the global conflicts are expected to de-escalate. Given the current global economic situation, China's exports are expected to recover with a growth rate of more than 4% in 2024. This will certainly help improve the overall performance of the Chinese economy.
And you highlighted the role of technological innovation driving China's economic development in the past year. And what are the prospects for 2024?
2023 is the first year after the 20th National Congress of the Communist Party of China. In this year, China deeply implemented the innovation-driven development strategy, strengthened strategic science and technology strength. Modern information technology, artificial intelligence, big data, and other technologies were widely used. And the new industries and new products grow very well. Scientific and technological innovation has become an important force to drive economic transformation and upgrading and enhance economic vitality. The recent Central Economic Work Conference set the tone for the economic work in 2024, leading the construction of a modern industrial system with scientific and technological innovation was the first of the 9 key tasks. And the conference also proposed using disruptive technologies and cutting-edge technologies to give birth to new industries, new models, and new momentum, building a number of strategic emerging industries such as biomanufacturing, commercial aerospace, and low-altitude economy, opening up new tracks for future industries such as quantum and life sciences, widely applying digital intelligence technology and green technology, and accelerating the transformation and upgrading of traditional industries.
From a policy perspective, what targeted initiatives do you believe are imperative for the Chinese government to sustain and enhance economic dynamism in 2024?
I think it is very important to continue to implement a proactive fiscal policy and a prudent monetary policy. The proactive fiscal policy should be moderately strengthened with bigger fiscal deficit ratio, sending a positive signal of policy strengthening to the market. The monetary policy will have more space of interest cut given the expected interest cut in United States, being more flexible, moderate, precise, and effective.
Well, Professor He, thank you so much for your insights. And now let's turn our attention to the evolving landscape of China's foreign trade as Aaron takes a deeper look into this dynamic sector.
China's foreign trade structure has continued to optimize. In the first 11 months of the year, China's exports of electromechanical products reached over 12 trillion yuan. This marks a 2.8% increase, accounting for over 58% of total exports. In particular, automotive exports surged by nearly 80% to over 650 billion yuan, while mobile phone exports grew by 3.3% to almost 900 billion yuan. Moving on to consumption, from January to November, total retail sales of consumer goods exceeded 42 trillion yuan. That is a year-on-year increase of 7.2%. The steady rebound in consumption since the third quarter brought the year-on-year growth rate in November to a new high. Back to you, Guanxin.
Well, thank you, Aaron, for providing these insightful details. The data emphasizes China's manufacturing strength driven by new technologies and processes, highlighting its growing competitiveness in international trade. And this momentum is further fueled by China's ongoing financial reforms. And on that, we welcome our guest, Dr. Xia Le, Chief Economist for Asia at BBVA Research. Welcome to the show, Dr. Xia.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Dr. Xia, how would you characterize China's economic performance in 2023? What are the most significant achievements of China's economy, and how have they shaped the economic outlook for 2024?
Yes, I think for many people, this year is a year full of surprise. For example, now I realize that the Chinese manufacturing sector is the world-class one. Okay, China is very likely to become the largest exporter of automobile of this year. Okay, we export a lot of the EVs. We also export a lot of the traditional cars. So that's a very big achievement for us. In addition, if you look at other manufacturing sector, for example, the shipbuilding and on the semiconductor sectors, although other countries, they impose some sanctions of this key tax, but China continue to make this a breakthrough. Think about Huawei. So all this one, if we put it together, I think we can see that the Chinese manufacturing sector is a world-class one. And in terms of the aggregate size, the China continue to contribute around 1/3 of new creative GDP to the world. Okay, that help to stabilize the world economy. So overall, this year's world economy is very stable thanks to Chinese stable growth. Okay, I think that's the main achievement I can read from Chinese economy.
You use the word complex to describe the overall Chinese economy. On the downside, China faces a major challenge, a property sector this year. Do you see the risk of being addressed or mitigated?
I think now the authority, they are trying to address this property sector issue. But I like to say that the problem is not pop up suddenly. Over the past 3 decades, we have seen a very fast growth of the Chinese property market, property sectors. Of course, this one is also a great achievement because they provide this housing to the Chinese people. But at the same time, we have seen this some kind of the problem start to accumulate in this sector. Now we are normalize our tightening measures imposed previously. I think that's a good normalization. In the past, we imposed a lot of restrictions for home purchase in first-tier cities, in small cities. Now we try to relax this one, reverse this one. But on the supply side, as you can see that many property developers, they are still in their financial stress because they cannot easily borrow money from the banks, from these non-banking financial institutions as in the past. So I think in future, maybe the authorities, they can have more policy to support the financing of all these property developers, make the good one. Okay, we need to make sure the good developers, they can get the money as easily as before.
And China has also continued to deepen reforms of its financial sector. How do you perceive the progress of China's financial reforms and their impact on the stability and the resilience of the financial sector?
In 2015, we have some market correction. We have some depreciation of the RMB. And from then, I think the Chinese authorities start to reform the financial sector. But they are doing that gradually, step by step. So far, even during the COVID-19 pandemic period, we see the Chinese financial sector, they have been very stable. Okay, they show strong resilience to withstand the external shocks. But of course, I think to push China to transit from the previous growth model to a new high-quality growth model, of course, we need a more competitive financial sector, right? The most important part is banks, especially the big banks. In the past, these big banks, they favor the big borrowers. But I think we do observe some good development. I think the technology advance already enable many big banks to lend to the smaller borrowers. For example, SMEs, because technology development like big data, machine learning, AIs, they enable this bank to do it. If you can have some policy initiative to encourage these big banks to lend to these SMEs, definitely you should do that one. I think there's still room for the authorities to do it.
And how do you think about the global economic outlook next year, and how does it shape China's growth prospects?
Next year, I think US, even Europe, they are going to lower their interest rate. That's good for China because China, they can have more room for policy maneuver, and China can stimulate its economy. At the same time, we do expect Chinese exchange rate, RMB, could appreciate. Maybe not that much, but they can appreciate against these major other currencies. That's all good for Chinese economy.
What do you think are the biggest advantages of Chinese economy, and how should China further build on this strength?
I think there's several advantages. The first one, the manufacturing sector, that's a world-class one. The second, I think the Chinese people, they are creative people. I never worry that China, they cannot do good performance in this high-tech sector because Chinese people, they are catching up very, very fast. So I think as long as we can keep this market open to the rest of the world, that's very important. We keep reform our economy. I think our people can deliver very good performance in the economy.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, and we appreciate your insights, Dr. Xia for us. Well, many thanks again to our three guests today for their insights on China's economic performance in 2023. As we wrap up this final episode of BizTalk for the year, it's clear that 2023 has been a year of achievements and strategic advancements for China. From resilient and stable economic recovery to advancements in manufacturing, foreign trade, and financial reforms, the nation continues to set the pace for global economic progress. As we stand at the threshold of 2024, the opportunities and challenges ahead are dynamic and multifaceted. Yet it's evident that China remains committed to driving sustainable and high-quality economic growth, navigating challenges, and embracing opportunities with resilience and innovation. From all of us here at BizTalk, I wish you a prosperous and fulfilling year ahead. I'm Guanxin in Beijing. See you next year.